Hi, you're tuning to Ceasefire Magazine, and today we're joined by Boots Riley from the Coup, a hip-hop crew that's been around a very, very long time, and they're touring Europe at the moment, and today they're performing in London. Boots, thanks for talking to Ceasefire today. I wanted to start off by asking you about the new album, which is called Sorry to Bother You, and it's released today. Particularly, I wanted to ask you about the first single from the album, The Magic Clap. Now, it doesn't sound as immediately political as some of the other tracks on the album, so I wanted to ask you why you chose it as the first single.
Oh, it's very political, as much or more so than other songs. I have Hurry Up, Get In, Close the Door, This Here the Meeting for the Overthrow. I don't know. It's pretty political. I think I look for new ways aesthetically to just keep myself excited things, and I think maybe that's, analogous to how political movements have to be. Like, you keep doing the same thing over and over, people stop hearing it. You hear the same chant, power to the people. It means something to the people that say it. But to everybody else, it's kind of like, it doesn't mean anything anymore. Sometimes the lingo and the aesthetic and the form become so commonplace and cliche that it detaches us from the ideas actually are. One thing that I noticed even before I considered myself an artist, that art that was supposed to be political was very doom and gloom and pessimistic, right? As if the only way to get people to act is to tell people how fucked up things are. Well, the thing is that people know how fucked up things are. People know how hard it is to live each day. You don't have to convince them of that. But what you do have to convince them of is that there's a possibility to do something else. So often, actually, the doom and gloom stuff ends up making people feel like it can't be done. Like, so, and some of the, I have friends that artistically take this way on, like, it's all about anger and rage. And the truth is, people don't feel that way most of the time, Even slaves laughed, right? And that's because we are human. And we figure out a way to live with our circumstances. And it doesn't mean that the only way to do that is to go to the emotion of anger. It means for people if people see, hey, wow, there's an actual way for me to get out of this, that it's practical, that something can happen, then they're motivated. So that's why the hopefulness has to be in there.
In the song Strange Arithmetic off the new album, you talk a lot about the revolutionary teachers who inspired you over the years. Can you talk a little bit about the role of schools in revolutionary and consciousness raising today?
Schools' function in this society is to create people that can function in the society, right? It's supposed to help set up your worldview. Often, history lessons are taught from the perspective of just these disjointed things that happen. Like, this person did this on this date, and that person did this on that date, and this important thing was signed on that date. And it's not really taught about how history really is. History, is on the right and left about movements of people and groups of people doing things together, and consciousness being swayed and things like that. It doesn't teach it in that. And so you learn these histories and facts detached from the way things really are.
Now, Boots, you set up a group called the Mau Mau Collective back in 1991. Could you talk a little bit about the Mau Mau to our viewers who might not be familiar with them and why you chose that name?
In reality, we were younger and going off of just little bits of history that we knew. And we knew that the Mau Mau was an anti-imperialist movement in Kenya, and we knew that the name sounded really good. And we were a rhythm collective. We were a lot of organizers who had kind of been burnt out, even though we were 19 and 20. We were burnt out, and we were artists, and we were making a collective so that we could get shows put on different places, because nobody would book us because it wasn't the sound that was happening around the Bay Area. So we wanted to throw our own shows, and we were really specific about it only being a cultural organization. We would do the shows in a way where every show was connected with a theme. Like, we bring in a speaker, and one might be around welfare rights. We'd bring in a speaker, and then everybody that performed there'd be like 30 groups on the bill, and they all had to do one song, they'd only get one song, and it'd be something connected with that. And these shows started growing and growing, and we started getting more and more membership, and as people joined, they were like, well, all we're gonna do is make art? Well, where's the movement part? And we were like, no, this is not a political organization. This is just cultural. And it was the people that joined that moved us into connecting it with actual organizations and campaigns, which is what we should have been doing in the first place.
We talked a little bit about the organising you've been involved in the past, but you've also been involved in some more recent stuff, such as the Occupy movements. Particularly, I wanted to ask you about Occupy the Hood and its significance within the wider range of Occupy movements sweeping the globe at the moment.
I'm not in Occupy the Hood, although a lot of those are my friends. And from what I can say, that the impetus of that was seeing the Occupy Wall Street movement spring up and seeing a lack of people of color involved and wanting to embark on campaigns that got, quote unquote, the hood involved, meaning communities of colors. The thing about the whole Occupy Wall Street movement is that many of the people were already there. Many of the people are still around, and everyone is still doing various things together. But because of, even though people are all working together, because of sectarianism and division, they're working together and not calling it Occupy. Whatever it does. I mean, I guess it doesn't matter. However, it does matter to the general public, because now that's Occupy Wall Street was just basically saying the left can work together. And look how big we are when we do. Luckily, there was enough success together where there's still some draw to seeing something else happen. But I think it's a disorder in the left to the sectarianism that happens. Yeah, there are definitely different groupings that I agree with more than other groupings. But, people break themselves down into very small, ineffective organizations. You got a lot of really right-on sounding groups that are 3 people large, And the Occupy Wall Street movement made people sit in rooms together that hate each other, right? But the thing is, and also the Occupy Wall Street movement brought people in that had no idea of the lingo that is normally talked about, had no idea of the processes that normally go on, and made it frustrating for people that already were. But if you're going to have a mass movement, that's what you're going to have. And so the chaos of all of that stuff going on and the disorganization of it is what made people feel comfortable with coming in, rather than coming into a grouping or a meeting where there's a few well-spoken organizers that are able to, that are like professional, and the agenda is set, and it's kind of like you're down with this or you're not, and the person that comes is friendly, but they never show up again. It was so chaotic that people could step in and say, wow, this shit is unorganized, so I have just as much of a say as that dude over there, and made people stay around.
Well, Boots, that was fantastic. Thanks so much for talking to Ceasefire Magazine today, and we're really looking forward to your show later, and we're really looking forward to hearing the new album, which is out today. Thanks again.